Well, good morning, YouTubers. This is Steve Bradley coming to you from the God Loves People YouTube channel. And I just wanted to chat with you this morning about Matthew 5:27, which is one of the verses that all of us guys kind of fear. Because what it says is, you have heard that it was said by them of old time. In other words, this is the old teaching. You shall not commit adultery. Okay, so you're not supposed to go with anyone other than your own wife. But I say to you that whoever looks on a woman to lust after her has committed adultery with her already in his heart. Now that's not only a fascinating passage, it's one that strikes fear into the heart of almost every man or woman who's ever had a sexual desire, because it's almost like Jesus is saying, don't have one of those. Nothing could be further from the truth. God ordained sexuality. It says at the very beginning that God created man, and he created male and female. He intended for sexuality and sex to be a large part of our lives. He just doesn't want it to be spread out everywhere so that we confine ourselves to one person. So what he's saying in essence is this. He is saying that we are supposed to differentiate between the person we can have and the person we can't have. And he's saying when you commit the act, of course, you've committed adultery, but also when you decide that if you could, you would have this other person. And that's really what it says. It says, whoever looks on a woman in order to desire her, he's committed adultery with her in his heart. That's what the original says. So the idea is this. The Pharisees' words basically excluded everything but the overt act. To put it in a crass sense, it was almost as if they could say, you can go to the strip club, just don't take anyone home with you. So Jesus tells us the law also includes the pre-decision, meaning that it's not the attraction that normal people feel for one another when they see someone attractive. What it is that thought in the heart that if I could, I would. Now this also includes women, although it's specifically addressed to males because they were the main ones in the crowd. And it's not meant to exclude us from our normal human libido. That's not the point. However, because as the scriptures say earlier in Jeremiah, he says the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? What Jesus is telling us is to guard our hearts. Guard how we act. Guard how we think. Guard how we live. And then in James, we read this. This is how temptation starts, and it's very important to know. James says, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted with evil, nor does he tempt anyone. But every person is tempted when he is drawn away of his own desire and enticed. And that's what Jesus is saying. Don't let yourself be drawn away. Then, he says, James does, when desire has conceived, it brings forth sin. In other words, the overt act. And sin, when it is finished, complete, brings forth death. And there is this intimate and inexorable connection between sin and death that is mentioned everywhere in the scripture. So in Matthew, he says, don't do that. Don't get to that point where your predecision says, I want that woman. If circumstances were otherwise, I would take her. I don't care about my family. I don't care about my wife. I don't care about my husband. I don't care about any of those things. I want that woman or that man. And then he says, if your right eye offends you, pluck it out and cast it from you, for it is profitable for you that not one of your members should perish, or that one of your members should perish, and not that your whole body should be cast into hell. And if your right hand offends you, cut it off and cast it from you, for it is profitable for you that one of your members should perish, and not that your whole body should be cast into hell. So what he's trying to say is not do this, because that wasn't how it was regarded by even the early Christians, but be serious about your decisions. Decide not to go that second step into a pre-decision to commit adultery. He says decide to do what is right in your heart. And of course, all of us are going to be tempted. That's how life goes. We're all tempted to be angry. We're all tempted to do things that we shouldn't do with another person. We're all tempted to do all these things. But he says, don't do it. Don't take that pre-decision step. And that's what Jesus has to say to us today in the Sermon on the Mount. I hope God richly blesses you, fills your life with joy and peace, and that you have a wonderful day. And since you can see that I'm outside and wearing this oddball looking jacket, this is my cycling jacket, which provides a target for drivers. And since you can see that I'm in my front yard, I might as well tell you, I live in Arizona in the mountains, and it's a beautiful day, and I hope God fills your life with joy. This is Steve Bradley signing off for the God Loves People YouTube channel.